NBC10 breaking news.
We begin with breaking news. An explosion inside a food truck in Philadelphia's Feltonville neighborhood. Sky Force 10 over West Wyoming Avenue and North 3rd Street, where the truck is parked. We're told 8 people are hurt, including a 25-year-old woman who has burns over her entire body. The other victims include a teenager and a 40-year-old woman. 5 other people are also being rushed to a hospital. Take a look at this map for a better idea of where this is all happening. Again, this is at 3rd and Wyoming in Philadelphia's Feltonville neighborhood. 3 people injured after an explosion inside a food truck parked there. We do have a reporter on the way. New information coming in as well on these injuries that we're being told about. An explosion inside a food truck in Philadelphia's Feltonville neighborhood. We want to go right now to NBC10's Denise Nakano for the very latest on this breaking news. Denise, what can you tell us about this?
We're live out here at 3rd and Wyoming, and we are on video right now of this lunch truck, this food truck that exploded into flames. I'm talking to witnesses who said that about 5:30 today in Feltonville, they heard a loud boom and they saw a woman who was badly burned sitting outside the truck. Now, SEPTA police, which is just across the street, arrived here first, and they were able to pull out 2 victims from the truck, but we're hearing that as many as 5 to 6 victims could have been burned in this explosion. Preliminarily, they're saying it was a propane tank that exploded inside this truck. One woman was taken to Einstein University Medical Center with burns to 100% of her body, 2nd to 3rd degree burns. There are a couple other people taken to Temple University Hospital, but as many as 6 people hurt in this incident.
Sky Force 10 continues to follow this breaking news live over an explosion inside a food truck in Philadelphia's Feltonville neighborhood. We are told that several people are hurt from this explosion of a food truck, including a 25-year-old woman who had burns over her entire body. You see the personnel right there on the ground. Count on NBC10 for continuing coverage of this breaking story. We start with breaking news. Check out this surveillance video. It captured a food truck exploding around 5:30 tonight in the Feltonville section of Philadelphia. 12 people are hurt, including a child. This blast was so intense, cars driving caught fire. Tonight, the focus is on propane tanks inside that truck. NBC10's Denise Nakano spoke to eyewitnesses who saw and heard the explosion and also one of the victims. Denise.
Well, Jacqueline, the street here just reopened in the last 5 minutes, but flames and debris shot across the street from this explosion, injuring 12 people, 2 of them critically. Among them, a mother and daughter who were working inside this truck when it exploded into flames. A ball of flames and flying debris covered Wyoming Avenue near 3rd Street in Feltonville.
Next thing I know, big boom, smoke, screams. Something I'll never forget.
Surveillance video from a nearby business shows cars passing the La Parrillada Chapina food truck. Then a blast seemingly out of nowhere shot flames about 200 feet into the air, shaking homes, businesses, and injuring 12 people, 2 of them critically.
And a girl was walking by from the nail salon, and her whole back got sprayed with debris, and she was screaming all the way up the street, "I'm on fire, I want my mom, I want my mom."
Officers from SEPTA police heard the explosion from their building across the street and were the first to get to the scene to help. Police say a mother and daughter were working inside the truck at the time of the blast.
A woman who lives over in the house here, she was able to get me a blanket so we could get this other woman in it, and we were able to get them away from the truck that was still burning.
LaToya Page was just released from the hospital with 1st-degree burns to the left side of her body.
I turned around and I saw the fire, like the fire was coming towards me.
Byron Landaveri rushed to Temple University Hospital to check on his 18-year-old niece.
We're very concerned. For what I heard, it was a pretty big accident.
Several hours after the explosion, Wyoming between 3rd and 4th Streets remained blocked off, and the backyard where the propane tank landed treated as a crime scene. The video of the explosion and its aftermath as jarring as the cries for help that followed.
You heard screams, like deafening, hurt, pain type screams.
You're looking live at crews just arriving on the scene to fix the power lines that were damaged in this blast. 4 people remain hospitalized tonight, including a 13-year-old who's in stable condition at St. Christopher's Hospital. And then the fire marshal's office, along with East detectives and the bomb squad, are working together to determine an exact cause to this blast.
NBC10 News has learned new information this afternoon about this food truck explosion in Philadelphia that critically injured 5 people. Investigators say a propane tank on that truck leaked. That leak made it to a grill grill in the truck and sparked the huge blast that sent a fireball into the air.
Live on the scene this afternoon in Feltonville is NBC10's Doug Schimel. And Doug, you've obtained new video of a mother and daughter rescued from the truck right after the explosion.
Exactly. This cell phone video picks up where the security camera video of the blast leaves off. After the explosion in the truck, which had been parked there, a blast so massive it ignited a phone pole and burned people sitting across the street. In the wake of the fireball, you see the smoldering food truck in cell phone video obtained by NBC10. And at the back of the truck, passers-by had pulled 42-year-old Olga Galmadez out, and they went back in to carry her 17-year-old daughter, Jaylyn, from the truck. It is the aftermath of a massive explosion at the La Periada Chapina food truck parked at 3rd and Wyoming late Tuesday afternoon. The blast had ignited a phone pole across the street just feet from where Angel Caraballo was sitting on his porch.
When I heard the boom, that's when I looked, the fire caught me on this side and right here. Clearly you can see it.
The cell video shows fire crews arriving, but before they can put water on the truck, witnesses move Olga Galmadez and her daughter to the sidewalk until paramedics arrive. Olga's husband, Otto, had not seen the video.
This is hard for me. It's my family.
Well, Otto says that both Olga and Jaylyn are still listed in critical condition tonight at the hospital. He hopes to be able to get in to visit them, but he said he has so many questions about what happened out here. That part of the story we're working on for tonight at 5 o'clock. Live in Feltonville, I'm Doug Schimel, NBC 10 News.
Today, we know what set off this food truck explosion on a street in Philadelphia's Feltonville neighborhood. Just a fireball there. Investigators now say a propane tank on that truck leaked, and that leak made it to a grill in the truck and sparked the blast. 13 people are hurt. 5 are in critical condition. NBC 10's Doug Schimel spoke to the family of 2 of the badly burned victims. He joins us live in Feltonville, where this powerful explosion happened just 24 hours ago, Doug.
And Otto Paredes says he was not here at the time of the blast, but looking at all the video about what happened out here has left him overwhelmed. Have you been able to see them or speak to them?
No, they don't let us. They don't let nobody see it.
Otto Paredes' wife Olga and stepdaughter Jaylyn were in the food truck when investigators say a cloud of propane gas leaking from a tank had ignited a massive fireball.
This is hard. This is tough for me. It's my family.
Cell phone video obtained by NBC10 shows the La Periada Chapina truck just seconds after the blast at 3rd and Wyoming Streets late Tuesday afternoon as witnesses carry 17-year-old Jaylyn out of the truck. A blast so intense it ignited a phone pole across the street and burned Angel Caraballo.
When I heard the boom, I just looked back and the fire got up to here in my face right here. I just ran upstairs to put water on me because it was the fire was so intense.
Otto Paredes says the videos are tough to watch.
I was not here when they called me, and I see all those videos got me crazy.
But he hopes they may reveal just what happened.
I got a lot of questions to do. That's going to start right now, going to see who take my truck, and see what's going on. I appreciate you help.
Well, Otto tells us he is still waiting for permission to go see Olga and Jaylyn in the hospital. Live in Feltonville, I'm Doug Schimel, NBC 10 News.
All right, Doug, and you can go to NBC10.com to understand just how some food trucks may become ticking time bombs. Also, coming up at 5:30, Harry Harrison digs deeper into the investigation into just how this happened. Hear about the finger pointing when Harry started asking whether the city or state should be inspecting propane tanks. Tonight, we're digging for more information about what caused a propane tank on a food truck to burst into flames yesterday, injuring several people.
There are 300 food trucks licensed in the city of Philadelphia alone.
NBC 10 investigative reporter Harry Harrison wanted to find out who's in charge of making sure these trucks are safe for owners and customers. They're so popular. Harry joins us live in University City. What did you find out?
Well, let me tell you, I checked with licenses and inspections, the health department, the state police, and even the Department of Motor Vehicles. And what I found out just might disturb you.
Who is responsible to inspect these tanks to make sure they're safe and functioning properly? I checked with the people who operate them.
Do you know who inspects the propane tanks on these trucks?
No, I have no idea.
Do you know who comes out and checks out the propane tank?
No, I don't know. I don't know. It's not my truck.
So whose job is it? There are 312 food trucks licensed by the Department of Licenses and Inspections in Philadelphia. But L&I tells me that's where their responsibility stops. They issue a license and make sure food trucks are operating on approved blocks. They say they do not inspect propane tanks. The city's Department of Health says ditto. They too are not responsible to inspect propane tanks. They only inspect to make sure food is being handled, cooked, and stored properly. City officials did tell me the state is responsible for checking propane tanks, specifically the Department of Motor Vehicles. So I called them. I just want to double check. So the Department of Motor Vehicles does not check the propane tanks. That is not your jurisdiction. The DMV tells me something attached to a vehicle that can do this and injure so many people at once is the responsibility of the state police. Just to make sure I got this clear, you're telling me the state police does not check the propane tanks on the food trucks. Meantime, people like Tim Smith, who operates a food truck, says he makes sure his tanks are properly working.
When I get these refilled, they take them out, they refill them, and they always check with their little squirt bottle to make sure there's no leaks.
Now, coming up at 6, the man who built the food truck that exploded yesterday. Find out what he has to say about what he thinks happened. Reporting live in University City, Harry Hairston, NBC10 News.
And food trucks are everywhere in this city, and yesterday's explosion is really raising some concerns for customers who frequent these food trucks. So we asked some of them at lunchtime in University City today.
I think it's something to think about. It wouldn't necessarily stop me, but I would expect to see maybe some future regulations.
I think it would be a good idea if the city of Philadelphia had some sort of licensing process or some sort of inspection process for these food carts.
The women told us they were actually talking about that explosion as they walked to the truck for lunch. Now you can see more video of the explosion on our website. You can also read about how some food trucks may become ticking time bombs. You'll find it all at NBC10.com.
We found no city or state agency is accountable for checking the most dangerous part of the truck, the propane tank. As you can see from this street map, food trucks are popping up all over the city, and yesterday's explosion is raising concerns now about their safety for the thousands of people they serve. All new at 6, NBC10 investigative reporter Harry Hairston spoke exclusively with the man who built the food truck that exploded yesterday. Harry, what did he have to say?
Well, Jim, let me first share with you, right after that explosion, I tracked down the man who built that truck through another food truck owner. Now, that man tells me tonight he is shocked and he is saddened by what happened to a client and a friend.
I feel so bad, you know, for the guy.
You know that family?
I know the family. I know the family, everything.
Erie Manee tells me he not only knows the family, but he also built their food truck just last year. Manee says when he saw this happen, his heart dropped.
You know the family that had that truck. What do you think could have been a problem?
I don't know.
This is the inside of one of those food trucks. Here are the burners on one side to help cook things. Also, you have the grill over here. All of the cooking equipment operates on propane, a tank that Manee says operators may change several times a day if they're very busy.
Many people in the, let's say, the lunchtime, they're so busy and they're out from propane. Where they change, they say fast, they want to finish. It's not good.
Manee says he's been building food trucks for years, making sure they meet health department standards. He says he doesn't know what happened yesterday, but suspects the tank in the back of the truck may have been leaking.
I think maybe it's leaking from the tank behind. You know, it's not from the kitchen. It's because it doesn't have this, if there's small leaking, it doesn't make that one, you know.
According to city records, 312 food trucks are licensed by the Department of Licenses and Inspections. But get this, 2 city and 2 state departments told me they do not inspect the propane tanks on food trucks. And nobody could tell me who is responsible. Manee says it's important the truck owners are careful.
They smell gas, they're going to shut off everything on the truck. They're never going to start the job if they smell gas over there, you know.
Now, one food truck owner, he tells me he buys his propane tanks brand new to make sure they're not damaged and they operate properly. Reporting live from University City, Harry Hairston, NBC10 News.
NBC10 is digging deeper into the investigation surrounding Tuesday's food truck explosion in Feltonville. NBC10 discovered yesterday the Department of Licenses and Inspections oversees Philadelphia's food trucks, but no one is being held accountable for the ticking time bombs on the back of the truck, those propane tanks. We checked out other major cities to find out their policies. The Chicago Fire Department oversees the propane tanks on its food trucks, and so does the Boston Fire Department. So the NBC10 investigators went to Philadelphia's new fire commissioner to find out why the same isn't being done in our city. NBC10 investigative reporter Harry Hairston spoke with Commissioner Derek Sawyer about how Philadelphia could make this happen.
This week's food truck explosion that injured more than a dozen, leaving one person with third-degree burns over her entire body, has city officials taking a closer look at food truck safety. I started digging after the blast and found no one from our state or city inspects propane tanks on food trucks. So I reached out to the city's new fire commissioner, Derek Sawyer, to find out why aren't firefighters here in Philadelphia inspecting propane tanks, and what will it take to make that happen?
I think it's important that we do take on the responsibility.
Commissioner Sawyer tells me he's pushing for a task force to bring several groups into the fold.
It's going to take some legislation, not just from the fire service, but like I said, Department of Transportation, which is federal, license and inspection. It's going to be a collaborative effort.
So I reached out to several city council members. How likely is it that there will be legislation to help tighten the reins on this and at least get the fire department to inspect those propane tanks as in other cities?
Oh, it will happen. The question is to what degree that we implement any regulatory processes.
Your opinion why this hasn't been thought of before or done before?
Well, I think it's kind of rare that propane tanks explode in food trucks, and because it hasn't happened, it doesn't lose the sense of awareness about the importance of it.
Commissioner Sawyer says his investigators will not be able to determine the cause of that explosion until they talk to the two victims who are still in critical condition. But an early report indicated that there was a leak from the propane tank, and a burner inside the truck ignited it. In Center City, Harry Hairston, NBC10 News.
Right now at 6, action in the wake of this massive food truck explosion Tuesday that left several people badly hurt. Philadelphia firefighters now paying extra attention to the city's food trucks and their propane tanks for the 4th of July. Olga Galmedes and her 17-year-old daughter Jalen were critically injured in Feltonville when a leak in their truck's propane tank triggered the blast. Philadelphia's new fire commissioner, Derek Sawyer, told NBC10 yesterday it's important for his department to take on responsibility of inspecting the food truck's propane tanks, and one day later, firefighters are taking action, as we said. NBC10's Christine Medella live tonight on the Ben Franklin Parkway. And Christine, hundreds of food trucks are serving thousands of people in the city today, and firefighters doesn't look like they're taking any chances, does it?
Absolutely not. We've been here all day, and we saw fire crews as well as crews from the Licenses and Inspections Department out here. And you can see all of these people waiting for food. There are food trucks and vendors all up and down the Ben Franklin Parkway serving all of these people out here for the Welcome to America Festival. And all of these hot food vendors, they have propane tanks, and all the fire crews have been out here inspecting each and every tank. Fire department and licenses and inspection crews fanned out throughout the parkway, inspecting propane tanks at each and every food vendor.
Good. Yes, sir. All right, good. Thank you. All right, I appreciate it. With that scare with the food truck, they're doing an extra job of checking every nozzle on every tank.
When I asked fire crews if they do this every year, they told me this week's food truck explosion prompted an order from the fire commissioner to conduct thorough inspections.
Every stand has 2 or 3 tanks, at each stand, so they're doing an extra job of checking every tank, every connection, so it's a lot of work.
From your meatballs to your burgers, all the hot food at the Welcome to America Festival has one thing in common.
Those propane tanks cook our food, and so, without those, nobody would be eating on the parkway today.
But we're confident that we're not going to have any propane problems with food trucks today.
Now I talked to vendors and food truck operators all up and down the parkway. They said that food truck explosion from Tuesday, it hit close to home, and it made them double and triple check all of their equipment themselves as well. Reporting live along the Ben Franklin Parkway, Christine Medella, NBC 10 News.
Tonight we're learning more about the mother and stepdaughter killed in the food truck explosion in Philadelphia. Olga Galmedes died Sunday. Her stepdaughter, Jalen Landaveri, died on Tuesday. NBC 10's Doug Schimel talked to their relatives. He's live in University City tonight. Doug?
Well, this is a family that says it has worked hard for everything it has gotten, and upgrading that food truck months ago was a major milestone for them, a milestone that is now forcing them to plan 2 funerals.
I don't have the words to describe how much I will miss her. We are heartbroken, everybody.
3 weeks of hope and prayer ended for Marco Hernandez.
Every day they got worse and worse, and finally God decided to take him.
Olga Galmedez and her daughter Jaylyn were badly burned when investigators say a propane leak ignited in their food truck July 1st. Olga died this past Sunday, Jaylyn 2 days later.
To know that she's not going to be by my side anymore, it hurts. It hurts for all of us.
Olga's family says her dream was to have a restaurant, and she started on a street corner with a grill.
She wanted us to have a better life because we were really poor growing up. And she was the first sister that came to the United States.
As the investigation into the cause of the blast continues, Marco Hernandez says he would like to meet with city officials to push for food truck propane tank inspections.
To make sure that this doesn't happen again and doesn't hurt other families like it's hurting our family right now.
Well, as the investigation continues into the cause of the blast, the family is pushing for more formalized propane truck inspections for food trucks around the city. More on both of those aspects of the story coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Live in University City, I'm Doug Schimel, NBC10 News.
Right now at 6 o'clock, preventing another deadly food truck explosion. NBC10.com was first to tell you last night that a mother and daughter badly burned in a blast earlier this month died this week from their injuries. It's been more than 3 weeks now since that tragedy.
And since then, NBC10 has been working to get answers about who will be responsible for inspecting the truck's propane tanks in the future. According to licenses and inspections, there are more than 300 active licensed mobile food vendors in Philadelphia, but the propane tanks, they're not inspected by any city agency.
NBC10's Doug Schimel live tonight in University City. Doug, you spoke with a city councilman who said inspections of the tanks could be done on several levels to ensure safety.
Exactly, and Councilman Jim Kenney says he does not want this to be some sort of punitive process with tickets for area food trucks. He says this would be designed to save lives, and that is exactly what a mourning family wants as well.
City council or mayor, I don't know who does.
Marco Hernandez's grief is fueling his own investigation.
And my sister was there. She was next to this tank, and she was smell gas. She would have probably told everybody to get out.
Fire officials say a propane blast inside a food truck severely burned Olga Galmedez and her daughter Jaylyn July 1st. Mother and daughter died within days of each other this week.
They were both strong ladies, and they always went for their dreams.
There is a growing call among family members to make sure this does not happen again.
It should be somebody inspecting these tanks every day. Maybe go around. It's probably hundreds of thousands of trucks out there.
City Councilman Jim Kenney feels multiple city departments that are out on the streets every day could be trained to detect propane leaks.
It's perfect for the parking authority. Just go over and say, and all I have to do is use the meter and check out everything that needs to be checked out. I mean, it's not that difficult to train someone to do this.
Food truck owner Sean Conquey backs leak inspections or installing propane detectors in trucks within reason.
You can always inspect a gas meter, the gas lines as you go around it, as long as it doesn't incur additional costs to the operators, because they're just barely making margins out here.
Well, fire officials tell us that the investigation still may be weeks away from a conclusion. The bulk of their time has been spent reassembling that destroyed food truck. Tomorrow, of course, viewings for both Olga and Jaylyn from 4 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. The family tells us that they will be buried in their native Guatemala over the weekend. Live in University City, I'm Doug Schimel, NBC10 News.
About a month has passed now since that food truck explosion that killed 2 and injured 11 others. New tonight, Philadelphia is taking steps to prevent that type of explosion from ever happening again. NBC10 investigative reporter Harry Hairston shows us City Council's plans for a new law.
Last month's food truck explosion in Feltonville shocked some city officials. Some found it disturbing when we uncovered that no one from the city or state was inspecting the tanks.
Were you personally surprised by the fact that to learn that no one is inspecting these?
Absolutely. I mean, I was very surprised.
Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark tells me that's about to change.
We've crafted an ordinance.
If passed, it will place the responsibility to inspect propane tanks of food trucks squarely on the shoulders of the city. Exactly what will this ordinance do?
The main thing is that it will actually identify an entity, which will be the fire department, that has a responsibility to inspect these vehicles that have these propane tanks.
City records show there are hundreds of food trucks, mostly near universities. Here on Tipple's campus, some food truck operators tell me they welcome the inspections.
It's a good idea to the campus, to the lunch shop.
It's good for the people because it's good for everybody.
Zachary Brewington is a Temple student.
It's the safety of the students, safety of everyone else, safety of just people walking down the street.
Clark also tells me he's open to expanding where food trucks can park.
There's actually some conversations with the Food and Truck Association about actually creating an environment where we can have a lot of these trucks in the neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia.
Council President Darrell Clark says once this ordinance is introduced next month, it could become law by the end of this year. On Tipple's campus, Harry Hairston, NBC10 News.
Philadelphia Fire Commissioner Derek Sawyer also weighed in recently on inspections of food truck propane tanks.
Sawyer did a sit-down exclusive interview with NBC10.com's Vince Latanzio. Vince, what did the commissioner have to say about all of this?
Well, Jacqueline and Keith, the commissioner tells me that he's all for having the propane tanks inspected, but that he's happy to have the fire department help make that a reality. But he's quick to point out that it's complicated, the whole issue, and that it can't just fall on the shoulders of one city agency.
What role does the vendor play in making sure they have good tanks? And then, are we really doing a good job of educating the end user on how to safely operate the tank? What should they be looking for? What odors should they be trying to sense to make sure that things are safe? So it's a big cooperative thing. It's not just one entity.
Now, it's surely an issue that will be debated between City Council and the fire department. Now, the commissioner answered a number of other questions on a variety of topics, including the deadly fire on Gessner Street that killed 4 children and how he became the fire commissioner. You can watch that full interview right now on NBC10.com and our mobile apps.
Well, this propane-fueled explosion killed a mother and daughter working inside a Philadelphia food truck and injured more than a dozen other people. Now, City Council is working to change how the trucks are inspected. NBC10's Deanna Durante is live at the Digital Operations Center. Deanna, what are the steps being taken here?
Well, the bill would create a new inspection team and a new inspection training course that would be headed up by the Philadelphia Fire Department. Now, some say that the July 1st explosion showed a number of gaps in the safety of those food trucks here in Pennsylvania. Food trucks, of course, have been gaining popularity all across the nation. Now, the massive explosion was set off, according to investigators, in the city's Feltonville section back in July. A leaking propane valve is thought to have been the cause of that blast. Now, according to a spokeswoman for City Council President Darrell Clark, the state is charged with propane tank safety inspections, but food trucks have not been a part of those inspections. So Clark introduced a bill today that would create a new fleet of inspections for Philadelphia firefighters, making it responsible on their part for checking out the trucks, but also making sure that some of the owners comply with the orders to run the trucks. Clark's bill would also put responsibility on the food truck owners, as we've said, and the vendors to have specific types of tanks installed, making sure that there's proper ventilation and requiring operators to make repairs if there are any issues. Also, the operators have to keep those safety reports and inspections with them at all times. The fire department has typically inspected trucks only when problems have been reported, but Clark's bill will force those food truck vendors to report the problems and make repairs immediately.
We found out that there really was no inspection process and safety course relating to the use of propane tanks. So what we're doing is enacting, hopefully, legislation that will make the fire department responsible for establishing regulations around inspections, regulations around safety, ensuring that people understand how they should and should not operate these propane tanks.
Now, this bill was introduced in City Council today. Clark's rep tells me that there's no timetable when it may be approved, but Clark did tell us that right now he has received very little opposition to this bill. Reporting live in the Digital Operations Center, Deanna Durante, NBC10 News.